Excuse me. Let me get my sound. Hello? I need one or two. Hello everybody. Big drink tea, yo yo. Thanks for joining. How's my sound? If you wouldn't mind critiquing. Is it okay? Can you hear me all right? Let me get my setup set up. So this obviously is a live stream. So I apologize if you as a viewer are used to watching more stylized, edited videos. This is homemade analysis. I'm Aphrodite Rose Starfire. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for joining. Is my sound okay? Is there any weird noises or interference? Please let me know. Are we good? Sounds good? So I am broadcasting today from my little sister's bedroom, my little sister Haley's bedroom. She was kind enough to let me use her bedroom because she has a really nice mural here. Can you guys hear me okay? We'll get started. Somebody can let me know so I don't start talking and it's weird. Anybody? Can you let me know? Okay, good. Thank you. So, again, this is a very loosey-goosey analysis and comparison of the movies They Cloned Tyrone and the Barbie movie. Today is July 28th, 2023. It might be the 29th. But I do believe that these movies were released at the same time purposefully because they have a lot of reflections and contrasts, but are serving the same modality in sowing mind control within the masses, but in a little bit different ways. So first I recommend go watch the movies. They Cloned Tyrone is on Netflix. So please, if you haven't watched the movies, pause this video, get Netflix, watch They Cloned Tyrone, then come back and watch me. I am going to give spoilers, I'm going to tell the movie, all that. So if you want to watch the movie, please watch it first. The Barbie movie is still in theaters right now, and I would suggest please go and watch that movie first before you listen to this video. But I assume all of you guys watched the movies already, so we'll get into it. First, I'm going to go over They Cloned Tyrone, and secondly, I'll go over the Barbie movie, and then we will compare and contrast. I got copious notes here, so I might be all over the place. Please bear with me, but I'm going more with motifs, kind of Easter eggs, hidden meanings. I also want to add that I have not watched any other YouTube videos analyzing They Cloned Tyrone or Barbie movie because I didn't want to be biased. I didn't want to have outside influence. Hi, Creator Mom. Thanks for joining. So if I repeat things that other people said, it's because we noticed the same things. Hopefully I share new ideas that other people haven't touched on, but I'm sure lots of people have come away with the same types of ideas from these movies, except maybe the Ford connection. I think I might be the only person that's gone that far. But okay, so first, what did she say? I'll check out the Barbie movie when it comes out in Look movie. Oh, okay, cool. Um, so they clone Tyrone. Obviously, is about clones that are grown in. They pretty much only say black people are cloned. In the like lower income areas. This place is set in a kind of fictional place called the Glen, but the characters make references to going to Memphis quite often. So you kind of assume that the Glen maybe is in, I don't know, St. Louis or, Knoxville, somewhere around that area. Maybe like Cleveland, Ohio, something like that kind of area. They later, at the end of the movie, say that there's cloning centers in Los Angeles and in Chicago, in the primarily black communities there. So like in Los Angeles, it's like Compton, South Central, and Chicago in the projects area. The movie starts out with extreme slang. Like, the way that they talk in the movie is so thick that I had to turn the subtitles on. I don't know if other people had to turn the subtitles on. I would think they would, because it was so hard to understand what they were saying. It was like almost a different language, how thick the slang was. And I think that was on purpose to immediately sow the lines of the division between, let's just say it's a racial division. This movie is so about racially dividing people between black and white. There is no, and they clone Tyrone, there is no Asian people, there is no Hispanic people. It's just black and white people. They do have like a hybrid person that's kind of, I guess, it's a white person with black coarse hair. So, you can kind of think of the type of people, white people that get afros. I'm going to be really kind of delicate on how I talk about this because I'm just trying to analyze the movie without, I don't want to come across like I'm racist or these are my ideas. This is in the movie. But I had to turn the subtitles on. Also throughout the movie, it's very heavily with a bass note, like really low bass thumping. Like I told my little sister Emily like about the brown note, because she started playing bass recently, and I was telling her about the brown note, and then we watched They Cloned Tyrone, and I'm like, see the brown note? Can you feel it? The brown note, if you don't know, is a bass note that you play that's so deep that it like rumbles your body and you crap your pants. It's called the brown note. And this movie is close to the brown note, which is interesting, like, color wise, but it has that rumbly, and we watched it, on my parents' television with a sound bar. So I don't know other people's, entertainment centers if that's set up that way, but the bass was so heavy and rumbly throughout the whole movie that it drowned out the actual dialogue, and it's like intrusive. And I think that is very deliberate, because part of the movie is mind control through music and tones. So I suggest if you do watch the movie, turn on the subtitles, not only so that you can understand exactly what they're saying and not kind of guess, but because the subtitles also put on the lyrics of whatever music that they play in between scenes. And usually, like, the lyrics really went together with what the programming was for the scene. So like in the song that is playing in the background, it'll be like, enslaved, enslaved. But you probably wouldn't pick that up unless you had the subtitles on, because I tend to think like, for most movies, you kind of maybe drown out the background music and don't listen to actually like what the lyrics are saying, because you're focused on the actual story of the movie. So Tyrone is the main character. He's a drug dealer in the Glen, and he kind kind of wakes up and it's a Groundhog Day every day. Something that I noticed about the clones, the men that, it's mostly only men, black men in the cloning center. You do see at the end when they release the clones, like a couple naked women that I guess were clones, but it's actually the naked, they abduct women and mind control them down in the center. The black women are abducted and mind controlled, but I didn't really see a lot. You don't, the women being cloned is not highlighted. It's pretty much the men. And something that I noticed that was common amongst the men that are cloned. So Jamie Foxx is a pimp and Tyrone is a drug dealer. His name, I'm sorry, his name's not Tyrone, it's Fontaine. In the movie, his name is Fontaine, the main character, and they call him Tane sometimes for short. Jamie Foxx's character is called Slick, and he's a pimp. And then there's his prostitute girl who they all three go down into the cloning centers and investigate and help release the clones. But the girl, she's like smart. She ended up being a prostitute and staying in the Glen, but she wanted to become a doctor and she was like honor rolls student, all of that. But something between the clones that they share is they both drink alcohol. Jamie Foxx is constantly drinking vodka and he makes excuses for not having orange juice. He never has the orange juice. He's always out of the orange juice, but he's drinking straight vodka. And Fontaine, the main character, he always goes to the liquor store and gets a 40, like every day. And there is like an old wise man that sits outside of the convenience store that gives Fontaine little sayings every time he passed by, and Fontaine will pour some of the beer, the malt liquor, into the old man's cup. And so Fontaine kind of just brushes off this old man as a crazy old man drunk. But later he finds out that this old man is actually telling him words of wisdom about the clones, about where to go, about how to get out of it. And eventually he starts taking this old man's advice. So I thought it was interesting that alcohol was a common tie between the clones that they use on a daily basis. Another thing that's used to control the clones is fried chicken. They have a fried chicken chain that uses a special spice. And the special spice is like a white powder that they put on the chicken that it makes them really, really happy, like giggly, just joyful, carefree, like melts your cares away, the fried chicken, this special spice. So in the movie, they have commercials of the fried chicken. And it's like, everybody come on down to whoever, I forgot the name, fried chicken. It has a special spice. And everybody's like, woo, fried chicken. They come in, everybody's eating the chicken. And so when they see this commercial, it inspires everybody to go get some fried chicken because they're hungry. And inside the restaurant, it's exactly like the commercial. People are eating the chicken. They're like, oh, this chicken's so good, so tasty. Oh, and they're like having fun and it's like dancing in their seats, eating chicken. Like people by themselves eating chicken and like dancing and having like just the best time. And so I have to say that it's been maybe like 5 days since I've seen They Clone Tyrone, maybe 3-4 days since I've seen the Barbie movie. But I did write a lot of notes. But since then, you know, I have commercials now that I'm staying at my parents' house, and a Popeyes chicken commercial came up, like a regular real world Popeyes chicken commercial. And it was exactly like the commercial in They Clone Tyrone. It's black people in the streets partying, like, woo, fried chicken. And they're like, yeah, special, like, I think they talk about, we got the special spice. And then they look up in the sky and there's like chemtrail clouds of chickens in the clouds. And this is a real Popeyes chicken commercial. And it's like exactly like the special spice mind control chicken in They Clone Tyrone. So, I mean, like, these are threads of disclosure, right? They had one scene in They Clone Tyrone of chemtrails. They Clone Tyrone is like a multitude of disclosure of where they're putting in these chemicals and sound tones to hypnotize you and control you. The movie is pushing that it's white people controlling black people, but in reality, it's just everybody is being controlled by these chemicals, spices, drugs. Everybody is being controlled. White, black, Asian, Indian, Native American, Hispanic. I'm sorry if I left you out, but you are being controlled by the, whatever you want to call it, elite, Anunnaki, whoever that controls the weather. But there was one scene in They Clone Tyrone where it was obvious, like half of the shot was the top of a building down, and then the people are walking really small, and the rest of the half is a big fat chemtrail. And that's like the movie, is it not The Creeps? But and then there's that Prince said that chemtrails over the ghetto is what makes people violent. That's what makes people fight. Like, why are people always in the project or something fighting? It's because of the chemtrails. That's something that Prince had said before he died. Another thing that is disclosed in this movie is hair care products. And again, this is all focused around black people. So the old man tells Fontaine, straighter is greater. So that's another commercial thing that's promoted, is these straightening relaxer products for the women's hair. And the women in the salon, when they get these products put on their hair to straighten their hair, they go from being stressed out with their life, they're dealing with their daily problems at work, and as the product soaks into their scalp, they start getting relaxed, they start becoming carefree, their stress is like melting away, and then you can see they start forgetting what they were complaining about. So it's like this causes an amnesia, the hair care products. And then the woman ends up questioning herself. So she's like, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm just overreacting. So these hair care products cause you to question your own inner voice, suppresses, I guess, the inner self or the soul. So so another modality of this mind control is grape drink. So grape juice or grape soda, they call it in the movie grape drink. And they use it in the church as the Holy Communion. And the same thing happens in the church when people accept the grape drink for communion. They get super exuberant, like the chicken, where they're dancing and like twerking in church. They're just like elated. The code word so when the clones descend down to the underground labs, which are only like pretty much run by white people, the people are all dressed like Mormons with the stark white button-up shirt and a black tie. So I guess you would say either Mormon or like CIA, but it's like what Mormons wear. And CIA is basically Mormon, like synonymous. But the main way they enter through to the lab is through the church, because the old man gives the advice of where do you go to get answers? Where do people go to get their questions answered? And they go, oh, it's church. So they go into the church, and the old man said, the big man will point the way. So, of course, in this church, there's a big mural of Jesus, and Jesus is pointing, and he's pointing at the tabernacle, or the the thing that looks like a coffin in front of the altar of the church, at the altar of the church. So they go up to it, and there's a little security card ID slider thing, and they had a card, so they slide it, and on it says IHS. And if you don't know, that's the symbol for the Jesuits. So you know, okay, the underground layer, the controllers are Jesuits, and then when you go down there, they look like Mormons, CIA, and everybody's white. Except at the very end, when they go meet the creator, who of course is the exact same as the original Fontaine. Fontaine, the main character, is A001, so the original prototype. And of course, if you watch these kind of movies, the inventor of the clones always clones himself first. That's just like, you know, rule number one. The inventor always clones himself first because, you know, narcissism, you know, you don't want to experiment on anybody but yourself. And like the feeling of being God. So the main scientist cloner guy is the, you know, the original Fontaine, and he's black. So he's the only one down underground that's black, that's part of the control system. The kind of bounty hunter cleanup crew guy that goes hunts down the clones that have become awakened, or, you know, controls the Glen. His name, he's played by Kiefer Sutherland. And I just watched the Hunger Games last night, and Donald Sutherland is Kiefer Sutherland. So Kiefer Sutherland kind of tells them, you know, kind of tries to get them under control, and he says Olympia Black, and that is the code word to get the clones to inactivate. So when he says Olympia Black, the clones just freeze, and then they will respond and do whatever Kiefer Sutherland says, or whoever says Olympia Black. And I thought that was a direct acknowledgement of the Titanic. So most all of these coded movies, or any movies that come out today, there will be a reference to Titanic, and that's because of this battle between the Olympians and the Titans. Okay, the Titans control the Olympians, but the Titans are like stuck in Tartarus, right? So I guess the Titans would be the people underground, and then the Olympians would be the clones. So Olympia Black is a way to control, for the Titans to control the Olympians. The scene when they go to the church and people are drinking the grape drink, it is telling you the song the preacher's saying. He's going, trust, 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 and it's supposed to be in, you know, like you're supposed to think, in God we trust, right? And it's the big man pointing the way. So this ties into what a human being is, or sea monster. It goes sea monster in the dictionary. It's the person who is not religious but sees the government as their God. In God we trust, God being the government, making the rules and telling you how to live your life. And you can just substitute church for government. And trust is also a name for where you like keep your wealth, right? You keep your wealth secured in a trust, and you're supposed to trust that they have your best interests at heart. It's this giving away of authority. Okay. Moving on. Oh, another thing I thought was really interesting that I don't think a lot of people will connect, because they don't mention it. It's in the background. But when Fontaine goes to the convenience store, there are soda machines on the outside. And the soda is a green soda called Soma. and it's spelled like Somaa. It's like Soma, and there might be an H on there. And it's never talked about, the Soma drink. It's not part of the disclosure of all of the products that they put the chemicals in. But it is an allusion, subliminally, and if you're in the know, to A Brave New World, which is about a hierarchy society of clones, because they're not allowed to reproduce or have sex. There's alphas that run everything. There's betas, which are like the sex bots, like the sex kittens. There's deltas that kind of like work at the doctor's office. They're kind of just, like help. They're kind of smart, but they're not that smart. They help you do things. And then there's the zetas, and the zetas are like the low class that are just menial work, like digging ditches, doing really grunt work. And everybody is addicted to Soma, and Soma is what they use for any problem. They take it. The Zetas are most addicted to Soma. The Zetas are constantly fed Soma. And Soma actually is a drug in the real world. It's a painkiller. Soma is also used as a term for like a chemical that's released in your brain, or sometimes people use Soma in the same kind of category as mana. But Soma basically is a euphemism for heroin or morphine or any kind of opiate that would attach to the mu receptor in your brain or in other parts of your body. But in the movie A Brave New World, the Zetas, they're like deformed, they're pale, they have like super dark circle eyes, they look like walking skeletons, and they kind of shuffle, and they're just fed Soma all day long. So I thought it was interesting that there was a Soma soda machine, and they cloned Tyrone. They never mentioned it though, but it's a tip of the hat to A Brave New World. Yeah, then they go underground. The people underground are either wearing spacesuit hazmat suits, or they have the white shirt with the black tie. Another part of the movie is the hypnotic music. First, a song's playing on the radio, and they're driving in the car, and the song's like, sleep, sleep, I'm so sleepy, or something like that. And everybody starts yawning, like, oh, every time I hear this song, I get sleepy. It's like, it plays at like 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. And then there's another scene where they're at a club, and the DJ he's like, okay, now I'm going to get you guys. And he puts on a certain song, and everybody starts fighting. All the people in the club start fighting, and then start chasing after Jamie Foxx and Fontaine and the girl. And then that's when Kiefer Sutherland says Olympia Black, and all the people stop. So and then down in the underground, they're testing different people, and they're using hip hop music to make two guys fight each other. And when they turn the hip hop music off, they kind of zonk out, and they don't want to fight anymore. At the end of the movie, they play the Erykah Badu song that's pretty old. It used to be, you better call Tyrone. But they changed the lyrics to, those motherfuckers clone Tyrone. And, of note is that Erykah Badu is supposed to be some head voodoo witch in the entertainment community, up there with like Kris Jenner is like Erykah Badu. Okay, some Easter eggs in They Cloned Tyrone was, I would have to say, at the beginning of the movie, you actually don't know what time period it's in. The whole movie is very like dark. Just the coloring is dark and drab to, I think, highlight that they're, in the projects. It's not stimulating. Their environment is run down. There's no color. There's no vibrance. And then you're like, is this the 70s? Is this the 80s? Because they're driving kind of older cars. And you don't know what time period it is in until the scene with the girl prostitute, and she starts mentioning that she's going to invest in cryptocurrency. So you're like, okay, I guess this is modern time. There would be another time there would be cryptocurrency. Yeah, and just the way Jamie Foxx's character Slick dresses, the pimp, it's very 70s. It's very like late 70s disco. And you wouldn't know what time period it is in until they mentioned crypto, which I thought was really weird. Then they mentioned Mandela effects, like because the prostitute girl, she's really smart, and she, I guess, had a history of talking about conspiracy theories. So they bring up Bernstein bears, and I was like, ooh. Something also that's brought up a lot is Michael Jackson, but in a very subtle way. They play Michael Jackson music in the background and mention him a few times. I think maybe they are saying that he was a clone, or that maybe he was one of those hybrids. The hybrids that they say that they're trying to clone. I think they're trying to clone white people. I guess they start cloning black people, and then they're trying to clone white people, but it was hard to get to a white person because they said the hair was stubborn. So the guys that run the portals, the entrances to the underground, are white guys with black coarse hair. So they're like white guys with afros. And those are the like ones that they're trying to get to, I guess, more of a Caucasian phenotype. But they mentioned that the hair is stubborn. I thought of Isaac Cappy. It was funny because the way down to the underground is through elevators. So there's like an elevator in the convenience store, like through a hidden refrigerator door. There's the elevator in the church from the tabernacle that says IHS, and then it opens an elevator. There's an elevator in this kind of abandoned house. In a closet, there's an elevator. And when that happened, I, blurted out to my stepdad, I'm like, elevators go to hell, stairways go to heaven. That's something else that Prince said in his real life. All elevators go to hell, stairways go to heaven. If you guys don't know that, like, remember it and think about it every time you watch a movie and there's an elevator and then they show a stairway. The elevator is going to their doom, their problems, their destruction, and a stairway is always to their rescue. They're either going down a stairway or up a stairway, but usually the stairway they're improving on their situation. Elevator, they're not. They're going worse into their problems. So they take the elevators down, and I said, elevators to hell, stairways to heaven. And then the next scene, they're in the prostitute's childhood room at her grandma's house, and it's all nicely decorated with all of her awards from school, and and they're like, why are you a prostitute? You're really smart. And she has stacks of Nancy Drew books, right? Stacks of Nancy Drew books. And the first book that Jamie Foxx pulls, they show it like really clearly to the screen. And it's like Stairway. It's Nancy Drew Stairway to the Mystery, or Stairway to, it says Stairway to something. And I'm like, oh, Nancy Drew's their rescue, and it's a stairway to heaven. There's references to Nancy Drew, Carmen Sandiego, and The Wizard of Oz in this movie. The one thing that was not addressed was that I was like, what the heck? Why is this not being talked about? Is the wise old man tells them that to get out of the situation, to get out of the Glen, you have to take the train to the last stop. That's what he says. You have to take the train to the last stop. And they just totally overlook it. They don't talk about a train. There is no train in the movie. The only time that the train is referenced again is the scene where the crowd that's under the hip hop music aggressive influence is chasing the main characters, and Kiefer Sutherland comes up and he says Olympia Black, and all of the people under hypnosis stop. And Kiefer Sutherland is like gonna, maybe kill the main characters. You start hearing a train sound in the background. You hear like a train horn and like it going down the tracks. Like if you were standing in the train tracks and it's gonna hit you, and it's, you hear that while Kiefer Sutherland is, getting all aggressive and telling him how it is. But there is no train. It's just the sound effects. So I don't know what that was about. But that was the only train reference. And at the end of the movie, they don't like take a train out of the town. They just plan to drive to Memphis, which is, a reference to Egypt and like the land of the dead, like the city, in between. And of course, the train is the Polar Express, the train to the North Pole. There's also the magic train in Harry Potter. I asked my little sisters if the Harry Potter train is the last stop, like is Hogwarts on the last stop of the train? Because obviously the Polar Express, the last stop is the North Pole. So is the old man telling them to go to the North Pole on the last stop of the train? He said, you have to take the train to the last stop. Which I guess would be the end of the line. But this isn't addressed at all in the movie. So that's an Easter egg for you guys. I don't know if other people, commentators talked about this train, but it's like the old man tells them how to win, and they just blow it off. They don't seek out a train. They don't look for a train stop. This has to do with one track mind, like a music track. Getting off the rails, veering off your whatever script. There's some questions I had about that leave the ending really messy. They don't address a lot of things. The head scientist, who is, Fontaine's originator, they're the same, actor. They look exactly the and why he's, with the white people making clones or whatever is because the Fontaine has the backstory that his little brother died and was shot by a cop for like the cop thought the kid was stealing candy, and his little brother gets shot like at 8 years old or something like that. So he has this memory of his little brother getting shot, but it's a program memory because he's a clone. But in the movie, he has a little boy that he rides around with that's like a friend. And at the end, you're like, was that little boy real? Was that little boy like a real little boy? Or was it like just an apparition? Like he was remembering his little brother and he was just pretending there was a boy there. That was never addressed, who that little boy was. And the head scientist doctor says there was an original boy, an original little brother that died and was shot by a cop. And that's why he gives that memory to all the clones. But he says the reason why that he does all these experiments and makes the clones is so that this doesn't happen again, that other little boys don't get shot by cops. But it makes no sense, because it's like the reason why they say that they're doing the clones in the ghetto is to keep the society going, and that they need like a bad area, a projects area with drug dealers and prostitutes to keep the society structure working. If they brought up the projects and helped them get better, then that would like destroy the whole hierarchy of social society. So it's like it didn't make any sense. It's like the doctor says he makes the clones so that a little boy won't ever get shot by a white cop again. But he's really just perpetuating the drug dealing, the prostitution, and the violence in the ghetto. So he didn't. There was no like. Um, it didn't make sense. And he wasn't like he wasn't the head doctor scientist. He wasn't challenged on that. He wasn't like, hey, well, you think that you're helping us, but you're making everything worse. Like how there's still little boys getting shot by cops, basically. It's like how is making the clones making anything better? You're just perpetuating the violence. So they never explained that. Another thing that kept on being mentioned was that it's in the water. It's in the water. It's in the water. And being dehydrated. They mentioned being dehydrated and it's in the water. So I don't know what that's about, because the clones, like I said, Fontaine and Slick, Jamie Foxx's character, drank a lot of alcohol. And then, so, all right. Moving on to the Barbie movie. Okay. Hi, Real Tuesday channel. She says, love this analysis. I think the Clone Tyrone is about meeting your maker and killing your maker. It's about God being Machiavellian and evil and sadistic. Yeah. Do they kill the scientist? I don't even think. Do they kill him? The end of the movie, it goes to LA, and like Fontaine's character wakes up and he looks like Ice Cube in Friday with the cornrows, and he's like in South Central, and it's like the same scene. The clone's doing the same. He goes to the liquor store. There's an old man outside the liquor store, but they're the LA version, So that was like the same thing was happening from the Glen in LA and Chicago with the same clones. They were just different. They were like different Barbies, like LA Barbie, the Glen Barbie, Chicago Barbie. They were all the same DNA, but they just had a little different styling. Big Drink Tea says, better drink that distilled water. Okay, so the Barbie movie. It's not what you think. It's very existential. It's not really, I would think, for kids. My little sisters, who are about to turn 13, really liked it. My mom and my stepdad were like, what the heck is this movie? It's really deep. It's about death. It's very existential. My movie, I don't know about other people that saw the movie, but my movie had no previews. I was like, where are the previews? And I was disappointed there were no previews. I don't know if that was for every Barbie movie, but I thought it was interesting there were no coming attraction previews. The movie starts off how you would think in Barbie Land. Oh, actually, the movie starts off with the scene you might have seen where they mimic Stanley Kubrick's Space Odyssey 2001 with the apes. And they're like, in the beginning, girls only had baby dolls to play with. There were no adult dolls. And you can ask your mother, but playing with a baby only is fun for a certain amount of time, and then it gets boring or something like that. So then it's like, in the desert, like the scene from Stanley Kubrick with the apes, and the apes like approach the black monolith, and it's like, dun, 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 and dun, 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 dun. And then the scene with the ape, and he has the bone, and he's whacking the bone onto a skeleton. I already know this scene because I'm like a Kubrickian language analysis movie analyzer, and the ape it's a horse skeleton in the original Space Odyssey. So the ape with the bone going like this, like on the surface, you're like, oh, it's evolution. It's the ape getting the tactile thumb opposition and grabbing a weapon and becoming aggressive. And that's, you know, the next step of the ape becoming the man, is that he starts being aggressive and fighting and using tools. That's like the surface, right? The surface interpretation. But what is he has like a bone, like a femur bone, and the skeleton that he's whacking is a horse. So what is he doing? He's beating a dead horse, right? He's beating a dead horse. And that's a saying, when you're going over the same thing over and over again, you're talking like in circles, you're on a loop. As Flurburn would say, the loopers. Okay. So the Barbie movie has lots of horse references, and you wouldn't think it. Like, why would it be about horses? So the mirror scene at the beginning of Barbie with the little girls, and they're in the desert. They're in the same scene as the apes, but they're little girls dressed in drab clothing, and they have baby dolls. And it's the same music as Space Odyssey 2001. And they start taking their baby dolls and they start beating the dolls, right? Like the ape is beating a dead horse. And the dolls like crack open and stuff, because the girls, instead of approaching a monolith, they approach a giant Barbie, right? The Barbie with the bikini, the little, you know, swimsuit and the sunglasses. And they're like, oh, that's the monolith. So they start beating their babies, and the babies are shattering. So that's the first scene in the movie. So it's immediately anti-baby, like anti-baby. They want the girls playing with adult women. So instead of the girl being trained to be a mother and mothering a baby, the girl takes a mother figure and aspires to be like the doll instead of taking care of the doll as a baby. It's now a goal to become the doll, right? So you can say that bones equal babies, because they use the bone in Space Odyssey. They substitute for a baby. Violence against infants. They also mention pretty frequently Midge, which was, I guess, the pregnant Barbie version. They bring up the old versions of Barbie, and Midge was the pregnant Barbie. They also have they call Weird Barbie, and Weird Barbie lives out kind of on the outskirts of Barbie Land, and she was a Barbie that was played with too hard. So she's the Barbie that the girl cut her hair short and drew markers all over her face and bent her arms off and pulled her legs off and stuff. So they go to Weird Barbie's house, and she's all like cracked out, but she has the wisdom, right? Because she had the most trauma. These are all like MK Ultra mind control programming. So they eventually apologize for calling Weird Barbie weird. They're like, yeah, we call her weird to her face and behind her back. But the Midge Barbie, the pregnant Barbie, they call weird too. And they never apologize for calling Midge Barbie weird. They call Midge Barbie weird. And then the Mattel executives say that a pregnant Barbie is weird, being pregnant is weird. So it was like very, very anti having a baby. And it was like the weird Barbie, they apologized for calling weird, but the pregnant Barbie, there's no apology for that. Like, that's weird. You know, we're going to stand by it. It was very icky about how mean, you think the Barbies are going, the Barbie Land and the Barbies are going to make these kind of reconciliations for how they treat other people. And it's like they go a little bit, but they don't go the whole way. There's still this, like, yeah, it's okay to treat this person like this and like that person like that. the beginning, then you go into Barbie land, and they're like, Barbie wakes up every day and it's a perfect day, and you follow Barbie through her day, and she's brushing her hair and taking a shower and all that in Barbie land. And then they go to the beach every day where Ken lives. And then every night is girls' night, like a party at Barbie's dream house, where all the girls are there, and they have like a dance party. And it was interesting that all the Kens, they had they are invited to the girls' party, and they show up and they have like a big dance montage to Dua Lipa. And all the Kens have K, like a K monograms on their sweatsuit. They're like wearing like, I guess, like Adidas sweatsuits or something. And so Barbie is always flanked by two Kens with a K. And if you don't know, K is the 11th letter. So it's an 11. So if you have a K on this side and a K on this side, you're flanked by like two portals. Like two, it's the 1111 portal, a KK. And then you have your creation in the middle. That's like the anode and the cathode. If you see pictures in churches of like Mary and the saints, they're usually between two towers. These are the twin towers, Joaquin and Boaz in the Masonic lore. And then the middle is the star pillar. The middle is Barbie. The middle is your creation. Like if you have Frankenstein in the pod, you have like your two electrical things, and there's an arc, and then the creation in the middle. This is the same as an egg. So there was very like deep subliminal symbolism with Barbie being flanked by two Ks, right? She's in between the 1111 portal. This is also synonymous with a pod of being boxed in between two barriers. It's like a double membrane of having two 11s right next to you. It's like you're in a double sealed dome, a casing. The biggest thing you notice, I think, right off the bat in Barbie Land is how multicultural it is. Like they really deliberately tried to represent every ethnicity. There is like it's not a majority of white people. Like I would say historically in these type of movies, it would probably be a majority white people, and then they'd have like a few, like a black person, an Asian person, and whatever. But this movie, it was like a lot of black people, a lot of Asian people, a lot of mixed looking people. It made a very deliberate casting to make Barbie Land multicultural and represent lots of different ethnicities. But in the same breath, so the main character who Margot Robbie plays, she's stereotypical Barbie. Okay, so everybody's Barbie except like Midge and Skipper, and Ken has a friend Alan. But most of Barbie Land is made up of other Barbies and other Kens. So they made it like super deliberate attempt to be multicultural with all the Barbies and Kens, but they super highlight fat Barbie, disabled Barbie, and trans Barbie. They are like way highlighted and have like lots of dialogue, lots of scenes in Barbie Land, like almost more than actually like Margot Robbie does. Like you see trans Barbie, and I mean, they don't call her trans Barbie, but she's trans. And fat Barbie has a lot of scenes. And the girl, the Barbie in the wheelchair, the fat Barbie, and the trans Barbie are all white. So I thought that was interesting. They didn't like make that multicultural. They made the girl in the wheelchair white, the fat Barbie white, and the one that was trans is white, a redhead. And I think that was the Dr. Barbie was trans. The president Barbie, she's black, and then the Nobel Prize winner Barbie, she looked like she's mixed. The real life girl that's playing with stereotypical Barbie and her daughter, they're Hispanic. But it was weird that I didn't think I really felt like there was any Hispanic Barbies, which I found interesting. Um, so when Barbie, there's mentions of portals, and that's how Barbie gets out of Barbie Land, is through a portal. They actually say it's a portal, and between the two worlds. And the way she leaves Barbie Land is she drives out of Barbie Land in her convertible car, and she's always singing the same song. Excuse me. It's like, I went to the church, I went to the mountain, I went to the drink from the fountain. She's always singing that song coming out of Barbie Land and going into Barbie Land in the convertible. And then the convertible turns into a boat. And then the boat turns into a rocket ship. And then the rocket ship turns into a camper van. And then the camper van turns into them rollerblading. Oh no, then the camper van turns into a snowmobile, and then the snowmobile turns into rollerblading, and they rollerblade into real world Venice Beach, Santa Monica. They basically come into the border between Venice Beach and Santa Monica. And this is all very coded, like heavily symbolic. The scene of Barbie driving out of Barbie Land in the car is the exact same scene as The Congress, the movie The Congress with Robin Wright Penn. If you haven't seen that movie, I highly, highly suggest seeing that movie. It's about going from the real world into a 2D world via pharmaceuticals, but it's like a futuristic movie about AI and about pharmakia and living in an alternate reality while your body is somewhere else. It's really, really interesting. I think it was way before its time. I think it came out in the early 2000s, The Congress. Maybe it was like 2006 or 2007, something like that. Go watch that movie, The Congress. But it is the same scene. I was like, this is the same scene. When Robin Wright Penn, as a real life actress, decides to go into 2D cartoon land, she's in a convertible, driving in, it looks like the southwest part of the United States, like close to the Grand Canyon. Maybe it looks like Zion National Park in Utah with like desert and like rock formations. And so Robin Wright Penn is driving in a convertible and in the desert, and then all of a sudden it starts to turn cartoon, and she sees a giant ship that's a hotel that's all cartoon. It turns from real life to cartoon. And it's the same scene in Barbie. It's like they use the same scene of going in and out of real life into cartoon land, into the Southwest desert. It was really weird. I was like, this is the same scene. They use the same modality of transference from 3D to 2D, a convertible into the desert. That's weird. So Barbie every day, she wakes up, whatever, does her routine, and then she goes to the beach where Ken lives. And what Ken does is Ken does beach. Okay, Ken does beach. That's what he does. He does beach. He doesn't know how to lifeguard. He doesn't know how to surf. He just does beach. That's what he does, beach. And what does beach represent, right? Beach is Aphrodite. The beach represents evolution. The lizard crawling out of the water, right? A fish getting legs and crawling onto the sand. That's evolution. And that's back to the tie to the Space Odyssey 2001 of an ape beating a dead horse. You're thinking, oh, he's evolving. He's getting tools. Okay, this is another symbolism of evolution, is the beach. And that's where Ken lives. Um, the beach is where new genetics are born. And that's where, after Barbie leaves the 2D world and she's going through the portal, she enters the real world through Venice Beach, rollerblading. She's on rollerblades. That's how they enter into the real world, is through Venice Beach. What is Venice? Venus, Aphrodite Beach. So that's the evolution, right, of the lizard fish crawling up onto shore, is Barbie crawling out of the 2D through the portal onto the beach, okay? If she really wanted to evolve, she would accept Ken Beach, right? The whole movie, she just is rejecting Ken, rejecting Ken. Ken is like trying to mate with her, trying to get her affection. Barbie is just like, nah, nah, nah. It's anti-baby, anti-reproduction, anti-romantic love, anti-coupling. But if Barbie did accept Ken and accept Beach, she would actually evolve, right? Because they would have the combination of DNA of a male and a female, creating the child, the actual evolution of DNA through the baby. But she doesn't. She doesn't accept that. So it's the portal knocks them out. Venice Beach, Santa Monica, and Santa Monica is Saturn moon matrix, right? So Santa is Satan, Monica is the moon or the womb. So Santa Monica is Saturn moon matrix. And Santa Monica has lots of ties to Project Paperclip. I actually have personal ties to Santa Monica and kind of weird genetic happenings and births. What else is birthed on the beach? Usually a boat is birthed on a beach. Okay. Going back to the horses, initially Ken comes with Barbie to the real world, and so the Barbie land is all matriarchal, like it's all run by women. There's a woman president, women, blah blah blah, and the Kens don't do anything. The Kens are pretty, they're like insignificant to the Barbies, pretty much. And when Ken comes to the real world, he sees patriarchy, right? He sees men ruling things. And for some reason, he says, like, he thinks horses rule the world, and that he gets really into horses and patriarchy. He sees men at, like, in Century City making business deals, and he sees men on horses being police officers. And he gets all jazzed up because in Barbie land, he's really a nobody and nothing, and Barbie doesn't like him. But in the real world, he's seeing men being acknowledged and have power. And he's like, this is it. This is what, like, it's really about. And he kind of has this realization that in Barbie land, it's opposite to what it is in the real world. Barbie land, women are ruling things. And in the real world, men are ruling things. It's weird that so then he goes back to Barbie land and changes it and he takes over Barbie's house and makes it his house, and he starts training the Barbies to serve the Kens, and the Barbies start like giving the Kens beer, and the Kens have like sports parties and stuff, and they try to make it, more patriarchal. But Ken says, like, oh, at first when I went to the real world, I thought that it was run by horses. And then I realized that it's not, and it kind of got discouraged because I really like horses. But it's like weird. It's weird to think that he would come into Venice Beach in Santa Monica and get the idea that the world's run by horses, because I would think today's world, you wouldn't really run across a horse in Venice Beach or Santa Monica, or there's not a whole lot of advertisements of horses. So that was kind of a weird thing that they put in there, that he got this impression that the world's run by horses. But, in reality, nobody would get that impression if they just came into LA. But the horse is going back to a Space Odyssey, beating a dead horse. what does the horse represent? The horse is like a Jungian archetype for the father. So if you image, like if you think of horses, or if you dream of horses, that can be a like a male domestic partner or your father. A lot of like teenage girls find benefits from working with horses because it's a giant being that can overpower you, but you have to like emotionally connect to it and gain trust, right? And it's a masculine thing. A horse is masculine. It represents the male. It represents a powerful being that you can connect with emotionally and can be gentle, but you have to gain that trust. But they used the horse in the Barbie movie to and Ken's obsession with horses, because a horse in today's society is obsolete, just like Ken is in Barbie Land, just like the male is in all of the Barbie movie. The not only is the Barbie movie anti-baby, I would say it's even stronger anti-male. It's very strong anti-male message that it makes you feel like they're being really mean. And in the end, so when Ken changes Barbie Land over to like, you know, the patriarchy, Barbie, you know, has to change Barbie Land back. And so you think, oh, they're going to reconcile and make it half and half. You know, it'll be half Barbie, half Ken, and they can live in harmony. But they say, you know, when Barbie takes back over Barbie Land, the Kens are like, can we at least have one Supreme Court judge as a Ken? And they're like, no, you could have one of the lower judges, but you're never going to have a Supreme Court judge. And it's like, wow, after all of that, going into the real world and all, you know, learning about, you know, divisions of power, you're not even going to give Ken a Supreme Court judge seat. Like, he can't even have like one seat. They're not even giving him any power back. So that was really shitty, I thought. But they tied Ken with the horse because the horse is an obsolete thing in today's society, because we have cars and planes and trains. We don't need the horse anymore. And that's what they are trying to say about the male, about the father, that the Ken or the male is not needed and is an obsolete part of society. That was the main message. Also tying it with beating the babies, beating the dead horse. That the patriarchy is old-fashioned, it's outdated, men running things is outdated, horses running things is outdated, and it needs to basically be thrown away. That was the message. Ken's nemesis is an Asian guy. And they have like really extended dance scenes of the Kens, and it's really gay. Like, it's really gay. They diminish the male so much in this movie. It makes you uncomfortable. How mean they are. It's not even subtle. But they emasculate men, make them gay. Even Ken, who's constantly pining away after Barbie and wanting to be noticed by Barbie, is accepting the kind of gay advances from the other Kens. They like touch each other and stuff. And yeah, they have the Barbie has a girls' night every night, and she said Ken's not invited. There's no apology. At the end of the movie, Barbie, you know, becomes a real woman, like, you know, Pinocchio. And she's in the back of the car, and She looks like she's all, like she has a blazer on and her hair tied back. And you assume that it's like the last scene, you assume that she's going to a job interview because her friend is dropping her off at a skyscraper building. And she's like, okay, good luck. And she gets out and she, Barbie is a real woman now. And they zoom into her feet and she's wearing Birkenstocks. And so I first thought, like, she's wearing Birkenstocks to a job interview. And she goes in and they're like, how can I help you? And she's like, yes, I'm here. I have an appointment with my gynecologist, Barbara Handler. That's her name. Her real life name is Barbara Handler. But it's like, wow, after all of that. So Barbie's, the original Barbie's goal is women's liberation. So all the Barbies think that they're helping the women in the real world achieve their dreams and become career ladies and astronauts and presidents and CEOs and artists. And so they think that their purpose is to like liberate women and make lives better for women. And so when she gets to the real world, she sees like, oh wow, that didn't really happen like we thought. And so when she becomes a real woman, you think that she's gonna go get a job, that she's gonna have a career, because that's kind of how the whole movie was like their purpose. But she said she's at the gynecologist. So you're like, wow, so she became a real woman, not to like have a career or make a difference. She became a real woman to become a patient. Like that was the like epitome of being a real woman, is getting more probing, like probing at the gynecologist and being a patient. And why is she at the gynecologist? Why is Barbie at the gynecologist? Is she having her period? Is she planning on getting pregnant? Like, why is Barbie at the gynecologist? Like in her real life, like first thing, that's what she's doing, is going and having a doctor's appointment. I thought that was like severe programming. Like that was like such an honor to go to the gynecologist. It's just like reinforcing the medical industrial complex and pharmakia. So yeah, Barbie has no interest in Ken. She strings Ken along the whole movie. When Barbie goes to the real world and goes to Mattel headquarters, the head guy at Mattel is played by Will Ferrell, and Will Ferrell usually plays kind of like the like satanic ruler. He actually has played Satan a few times, but like in the Lego movie, he's the crazy guy that's ruling the world. And it's the same in the Barbie movie. He's at the head of the table. And behind him are the design of the windows are all these X's behind him, behind the boardroom table. It's like XXXX. So that obviously represents XX chromosome. It's also an allusion, I thought, to Elon Musk and his future X venture. The fact that Y is obsolete, you don't see the Y. When Barbie is inside Mattel headquarters and she's kind of running away from the executives, she stumbles upon a room that she goes into, and it's the same scene from The Matrix. With the Oracle, they like use these same environments, same scenes to produce like a subliminal memory in you, because all these movies are connected and like telling you messages. But it's the same scene of the Oracle in her kitchen. It's kind of a regular kitchen, grandma's kitchen, and they're sitting at the kitchen table drinking tea. It's the same as the Oracle. The old woman is, hi Erin. The old woman is the creator of Barbie. She's, I guess her name is Handler. I'll have to look that up if her real last name was Handler. But she tells Barbie that she created her, um and she's played by Danny DeVito's wife. Okay. So now I'm going to get into the comparison of this video is so long. The comparison of Barbie and They Cloned Tyrone. So first thing is the boxes and the pods. When I already kind of said this with Barbie being framed by K's, which represent the 1111 portal. There's also a scene at the Mattel headquarters where they tell Barbie to get back in the box, and they have a big box, and they want her to get into the box. I'm running out of battery. Can you still hear me? Can you still hear me? Can you hear me? I don't have my headphones in anymore because I have to charge my phone. Can you hear me okay? I hope so. So obviously they cloned Tyrone. The clones are in these pods, in these hyperbaric chamber tubes, right, where they grow the clones. Can somebody let me know if you can still hear me? That would be awesome. Thank you. And then Barbie at Mattel headquarters, they say to get back to Barbie land, she just needs to go back in the box and she'll go back to Barbie land. So they try to put her in the box, and when she goes into the box, they put the twist ties on her wrists, like restraints, like the Barbie box, you know? But she's able to, she decides that she doesn't want to be in the box, and she gets out. Thanks, Big Drink Tea. If you haven't seen my videos about the pod people, I would recommend watching that because it ties into being boxed in, being in a pod. This has to also do with the Xbox, the cube, Saturn's cube. You know, if you unfurl a cube, it turns into a cross, so a cross is the same as Saturn's cube. I thought the biggest similarity between They Cloned Tyrone and the Barbie movie was the IHS headquarters, or the labs in They Cloned Tyrone, and the Mattel headquarters in Barbie. Both of these, you know, where the elite controllers are operating, they had the same look. It was kind of like a dark gray, colorless building with no windows. They go outside, there's men in suits, mostly white men in suits. In the Barbie movie, the Barbie movie, the executives were multicultural, but but it's like the men in suits, the men in black, it's all the same thing. Both movies, they had like cubicles. In the Barbie movie, the workers worked actually in cubes. And then the elevators are used. So Barbie movie, the elevators are used. Tyrone, the elevators are being used. Elevators go to hell. And then Barbie, when she goes and meets her maker, the Matrix lady, her creator, she says, oh, go take this stairway, and that will lead you out of the building. So the mother, the creator figure gives her the stairway to heaven. So stairways will lead them to their rescue, and elevators go to hell. So that was a common theme. Cubicles, cubes, glass enclosures. Both of them had ID tags and heavy security. That was highlighted a lot. The use of key cards, of ID badges, using to get into doorways and behind the glass closed doors. So both Fontaine and they clone Tyrone and Barbie, they both go through this like existential crisis of where their reality and what they thought was the nature of their reality is totally questioned, and they realize that what they thought to be true wasn't true. Barbie, she goes from feeling like she's a women's liberator, that she's bettering the real society, and she goes at the end into more self-discovery, where she kind of gives up the need to help other women and to make changes in the outside world, and focuses more internally, and I guess all the way internal to her gynecologist. But she goes inward and focused in kind of more of a narcissistic path, whereas Fontaine and they clone Tyrone goes from a drug dealer, which I guess would be more interested in himself, not caring about his people in his community, and he goes to being the savior of his people by rescuing the clones from the underground labs. I thought it was interesting, both Barbie and Fontaine are motherless. Both of them don't have mothers. In They Clone Tyrone, he wakes up every day, his Groundhog Day, and he like makes 2 sandwiches, and he goes past his mother's door and knocks on the door and says, "Hey mom, you want a sandwich? Hey mom, you want to come out?" or whatever. And then a voice will answer from the other side of the door saying, "Oh no, I had lunch at church," or "Oh no, I'm too tired to come out today." And Fontaine just accepts it and walks on by. But then when he finds out he's been cloned, he breaks down the door and realizes in the room it's just an empty room, and there's a desk and there's a little recorder there that has his mother's voice on it. That was just so there is no mother. It was just this fake voice recording that was answering to him when he knocked on the door. I also thought, it's not really suggested in the Barbie movie, but both movies have music controlling the masses. In They Clone Tyrone, it's actually deliberate, where they're using the hip-hop music to make the people violent. But in the Barbie movie, it starts off with like Dua Lipa music, and everybody's like doing synchronistic choreography, and it's like when the music plays, they have to dance. So it's like this hypnotic control through tones and sounds. Also, going with the music is this song that Barbie always sings coming in and out of Barbie Land of, "I went to the church, I went to the mountain, I went to the doctor, I drank from the fountain." It's like the same things that are in They Clone Tyrone. They go to the church, like the doctor is the lab guy. They drank from the fountain. Like They Clone Tyrone was all about it's in the water, and they talk about everybody's dehydrated. So that's like part of the mind control, going to the church, the mountain, the doctor, and drinking the water. I guess the water that's cursed that keeps you under mind control. Probably the biggest similarity is the Ford programming. And this has to do with division. Okay, so this is the biggest thing. So obviously, They Clone Tyrone is about division of races. It's very, very racial. It's very anti-white person. That white people are evil, that white people are parasiting off of black people. And it's dividing among racial lines. That's what that movie is about. Whereas Barbie is about dividing the sexes, right? It's about dividing male and female. It's about the matriarchy and the patriarchy, but not like that they're equal, that the patriarchy is obsolete. It's like a horse-drawn carriage. It's like stupid, pathetic. They're better off mingling the Kens amongst themselves. And even at the end, where you're supposed to have a resolution, the Kens aren't even allowed to have one Supreme Court judge in Barbie Land. So it's like to keep the sexes separate. This is part of the Ford programming of Ford, who moves from the horse-drawn carriage to the Model A car, the automobile. And Ford's big thing was division of labor, of divide and conquer, about having specialized, instead of one guy making the whole car, he'd have one guy that does the wheels, one guy that does the lights, one guy that does the frame, one guy that paints the body, one guy, it was the assembly line, right? The division of labor. So in the movie or the book, A Brave New World, that I mentioned about, where they actually have such a division of different genetic, the alphas, the betas, the deltas, and the zetas, where the alphas run things, and then it's like lower from there. In that story realm, they actually worship Ford. They worship the Model A, and Ford is their god. They salute, they salute in some way that they say Ford, like honor be to Ford or something. Ford is the god, in God we trust. And then, yeah, that's tied to the horses. And when you have the division of labor, you have the hidden hand, right? The Masonic hidden hand, where the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. So this is like how NASA is constructed, right? Where you have one department's working on something of building the rocket, and then this other department's working on that part of the rocket, but the two departments don't know what each other's doing. There's only one kind of puppet master handler elite group of people that knows what everybody's doing. But the ignorance of the two departments is deliberate, so that they either fight with each other or they don't question the greater work that they're working on. This goes into like shattering the personality of like divide and conquer, creating different identities within yourself. Like, I'm a mother in this role, I'm a girlfriend in this role, I'm a I work at a bank in this role. It's like putting on different hats, but you're shattering your personality by identifying with something. And then when you do that, it's like you're making clones of yourself, and in some ways, you at one part, like a multiple personality alter, they actually don't know what the other identity is doing. Like with people with severe multiple personality disorder, their actual alters have no idea who the other people are, or they only know their own identity. And this comes from Ford and the division of labor, divide and conquer. I think that's about it. I'm going to end it there. This video is so long, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some ideas, some Easter eggs. Go see the movie. Maybe watch it again with these ideas. I kind of expected to see a train in the Barbie movie. They didn't have a train. They had the other modes of transportation. But these are things to think about when you're watching other movies about evolution, about beaches, about division of the sexes, division of the races. When you divide, you can conquer each thing separately because the population sizes are smaller, and now you have the two populations against each other. It's a way to control the people. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Bye.